There are two beings in all of fiction that demand absolute respect from their allies and fear from their enemies. They aren't just legends, they're gods. One is the god pharaoh of Magic the Gathering, Nicol Bolas. The other is the god emperor of Warhammer 40k, the emperor of mankind. Today, we're doing a full power and skill analysis, and by the end of the video, we're answering one question: who actually wins in a fight? But first, I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac, and this is Labman's Lore, where I connect you to your cards through story. This is my first versus video, so I have 3 caveats I want to tell you so this goes smooth. We'll be using lore and feats to determine the power levels and abilities of these two characters. I'll include excerpts on the screen as I talk, and all references will be down in the description below. Both characters have 30 plus years of lore. Dozens of writers over decades have contributed to the lore. Some contradictions have occurred, so I can say something factually correct, but also be wrong. Welcome to nerd culture, my friends, that's how it be. I'm a Magic the Gathering guy at heart, but I'm going to keep this as objective as possible. I do like Warhammer, don't get me wrong. I'm running my script by a few different Warhammer people just to verify, and one of them is my brother, who has zero issue telling me I'm wrong, so don't you worry there. And lastly, I fully expect some actuallys in the comments down below. I'm cool with that. I want to hear from you. We are passionate about these characters after all. If any errors do occur, let me know. Comment them down below, and I'll either pin the comment once I verify it's true or put it in the description. And stay tuned towards the end of the video because I have details for a giveaway to celebrate reaching 200 subs. Okay, enough with the setup, let's jump into it. Let's start with Bolas, the Forever Serpent, the God Pharaoh, the Planeswalker. We will start with him as an Elder Dragon, and then go to his Premending Planeswalker form, then his Postmending Planeswalker form, and finally his insane God Dragon form. You'll see that his schemes are as limitless as his potential power. Bolas is an Elder Dragon, and that's not some old dragon, which he is, by the way. He's 25,000 years old. Elder Dragon refers to being a direct descendant to the creator of all dragons in the multiverse, the Dragon. An Elder Dragon has the inherent ability to know the nature of the world. He can assess powers and capabilities and the nature of something just by looking at it. He knew about bacteria the moment he was born, and how dragons were at the top of the food chain. But instantly, something happened to alter his worldview for millennia to come. He saw his sister, a new hatchling, get slaughtered by humans right in front of him, and he was helpless to stop them. This made him hate humans, shocking him to his core that a lesser being didn't follow the way of the world, and they would need to be subjugated by him. It's his destiny. Don't get it twisted, he's not some tragic villain that was pushed to be evil, someone you can relate to. He's just evil through and through. He's petty and narcissistic, believing himself to be the pinnacle of all natural order. He is a master of red mana, which fuels his rage, black mana, which makes him ambitious, and blue mana, giving him the most powerful mind in all the multiverse. He is a force to be reckoned with physically, being 40 feet tall and 60 tons in weight. His physical stats can vary between artists. The worst thing to ever happen to Bolas was his first card's art. I mean, look at it, they made him look like a total nerd. In terms of speed, he is a planeswalker. It can not only teleport to other planes, but also within the plane. Countering and defending against lightning and light-based attacks is trivial to one such as Bolas, which puts him in the faster than light category of speed level. Bolas boasts that dragons have the greatest minds, and his mind is the greatest among all dragons. He can create multiple brain centers in his brain to manage and multitask any situation. He has structured his entire mind of over 25,000 years of memories, organizing a mental structure so he can access any piece of information instantly. He can also create subminds throughout his body to handle certain tasks like researching, conversations, or managing assets in the middle of a fight. At the last battle in the Elder Dragon War, Ugin, his brother, returned. Bolas thought that he had died, but Ugin told him that he had been on a different plane, that he could travel from plane to plane on a whim, that he was a planeswalker. This shook Bolas's worldview to its core. He knew of planes, but the idea that his brother could do something that he couldn't, it was so traumatic, it ignited Bolas's spark, and he himself became a planeswalker. And then he, at that moment, abandoned his petty little Elder Dragon war. He is now a large fish in a near infinite pond. Let's go over the multiverse and planes to get a full grasp of the power of a Premending planeswalker. I did a whole video on this and I'll link that down below. The multiverse has a near infinite amount of planes, but they are technically finite in number. This was stated as much in Richard Garfield's 1994 Pocket Player's Guide, and on Mark Rosewater's Blogatog, and even by Urza himself. Even though the multiverse is finite, that's not always true for the planes within it. It consistently has been said that planes have infinite expanses of matter. Joda, yeah, that Joda, said as much when he viewed the multiverse through the eyes of Freyles, who was an Premending planeswalker. It gets even weirder. Many times planes have infinite spaces within those planes, and then some planes have multiple infinite pocket dimensions within them. Like Theros, for example, has 3 infinite pocket worlds inside its own infinite plane. Nyx, the underworld, and the river that leads to the underworld. Some planes have more mana than others, but it is fair to say that if a plane is infinite in size, then it has infinite energy within it. A planeswalker spark is a fragment of the Blind Eternities itself. The Blind Eternities is the space between planes, and it was a fragment bound directly to their souls. And that gives them infinite energy, also known as mana, to wield. But the benefits of being a Premending planeswalker, also known as an Old Walker, doesn't stop there. For example, they all had cosmic awareness. Here's a description of it for Bolas. It says, as a planeswalker before the mending, Nicol Bolas' reach extended across the whole of the multiverse. Anything he wanted, he could reach out and take with barely a thought. Now this includes creatures like powerful demons, powerful dragons, gods, Eldrazi monstrosities, and whole planes worth of armies. Artifacts with legendary powers can also be summoned by them. Bolas was an immortal thanks to his spark. Now fundamentally, planeswalkers were beings of energy and will. They didn't have bodies as we kind of see them. They construct them as we see in Artifact Cycle Book 3. They just use them to interact with the world around them. So they have total control of every molecule and cell in their body, allowing them to take whatever form they wish. Bolas can reform not only his body after death, but also his mind and soul. He told Teferi, my mind, body, and spirit were all broken and lost. Death's hands opened to claim me, but I am still a dragon. I only go where I please. The aura on this guy would make Thrag and Escanor blush. The most godlike and ridiculous ability Old Walkers have is surviving the erasure properties of the Blind Eternities. The Blind Eternities doesn't just kill you, it erases you mind, body, and soul. As shown on Door to Nothingness, the Blind Eternities can even erase you from the memory of anyone that knew you. Anything that enters, gone completely. They can move others through it safely, or they can chuck someone into it, making them disappear and erased from existence. One of the most insane powers Old Walkers had has to be their ability to create and destroy whole planes. Now remember, these can be infinite in space, time, and energy, which makes them a multiversal threat at the minimum. On the card, This World Belongs to Me, Bolas is quoted to say, little insects, I have created entire worlds and extinguished twice as many. Let's get into some of the spells he can cast using his infinite source of mana. His mind-rending touch is probably his most infamous, having it even back when he was just an Elder Dragon. It's a brutal combination of blue mental magic and black death magic. As shown here, you can even use it on Old Walkers like Teferi, a great tactic because it prevents them from focusing, making them have seizures, and disintegrates their physical essence. He's a master at soul magic. Nicol Bolas can split a being's soul from its body. He can also reverse life and death by manipulating the soul. Nicol Bolas can burn someone's soul using his mind alone. On the card Soul Manipulation, he says, birth and death are both reversible. Now, I came across this excerpt of him doing this to a character named Dark, and I just wanted to read it to you so you get a full sense of its power. He screamed, his body convulsed, his mind drained, his lungs burst, and his blood boiled. He was thousands of miles high in the air, and he was also buried in the deepest, blackest pit. He burned and drowned simultaneously, starved and grew fat. He was split asunder, torn into a million pieces, and instantly reassembled endlessly for all of time. It also is worth noting that he can use this attack at full force or subtly just to manipulate someone's mind. His mental fortifications are on a whole nother level as well, able to stop the Mind Mage Planeswalker Jace and also alter his mind in retaliation. He wiped Jace's mind, all the while calling him a fool and just smack talking him, typical Bolas. Jace instinctively planeswalked away just to survive. And he, of course, can use mind control. He could do this with a spell from another plane, send his spirit to possess others from another plane, and this can be done from the weakest human to the most powerful gods. Let's knock out what he did on the plane of Amonkhet because it's insane and covers many of his Premending powers on full display. Now he finds this plane and he starts by killing every adult on the plane with a single spell. As the gods of that world watched their beloved followers die, he went to them next. But he didn't kill them, he had plans for them. He sealed 3 of the gods away for later use, then he altered the minds of the others to make them forget everything and completely rewrote their minds to serve him unquestionably. Then he created a whole sun and moved it into the orbit he'd prefer using his telekinesis. He set the whole society up so that the gods would raise the children to be skilled warriors and perform tasks. The best of the best were slaughtered by the gods and turned into zombie warriors covered in a blue metal harvested from quarries on the plane. It was resistant to magic, it's called Lazatep. He subjugated an army of angels to keep his plans going, and he morphed their bodies to resemble his. He sealed an elder demon away for his little apocalypse. He also cursed the sphinxes of that world from never being able to communicate verbally or non-verbally. He can banish someone's soul to another world or to the blind eternities, and this includes other old walkers. Nicol Bolas can create protective webs that repel magical attacks, including existent erasure. Nicol Bolas can reflect incoming damage and attacks and can send it back to their source. Nicol Bolas is capable of using counter spells, or if you'd prefer, nullifying magic. Counterspells can be used to negate the summonings, attacks both magical and physical, enchantments or curses, or even other counterspells. Nicol Bolas was capable of creating rifts with his attacks, which are endless in size and can distort reality, venting out chaos magic. He separated himself a half step from reality, making him untouchable, but he can still cast spells and touch anyone else. He can break free from time and space, and also bend time to his will, overruling others' control of it. Teferi is a time mage who was also an old walker, and Bolas easily was able to reverse his time magic, and boasted that he could not only do it as well, but also do it better. Now, of course, he can shoot fire from his mouth, he is a dragon after all, but he can also shoot a ball of vapor that can reduce someone's body into dust, and also disrupt the thinking of those around him. With just a glance, he can dissolve living beings. Bolas can control dark flames and have them rain down from the sky to devour everything they touch. Nicol Bolas destroyed an entire plane called Scala by burning it with fire so hot that it turned white. The Great Mending was an event that quote-unquote fixed the multiverse from time rifts. This altered the nature of a planeswalker's spark. For example, they don't have access to infinite energy after the mending. We call this phase obviously Post Mending. And they aren't immortal, they can age and can't take people with them through the blind eternities anymore. Bolas can cast all the same spells post-mending as he did pre-mending, but like every Magic the Gathering player knows, you need mana for that. You gotta tap your lands. The loss of infinite energy and immortality were the real differences between post and pre-mending. And it's been stated that the mending didn't narrow his reach, but the power reduction introduced new challenges, new difficulties, and new limitations, and no one puts limitations on Bolas, not even the multiverse. At his very core, Bolas is a planner, not a fighter. This is seen in his greatest scheme he started as a pre-mending planeswalker on Amonkhet. To regain his pre-mending status, post-mending planeswalker Bolas finally enacted his plan after thousands of years. It was the War of the Spark. He used a planar beacon to lure planeswalkers to the plane of Ravnica. Then he used an army of magic-resistant zombies to harvest the sparks of those planeswalkers. The sparks all came to him, and he grew in power. The spell he was using to do this was termed the Elder Spell. He once again felt the infinite power flow through him, but this was different. He was stronger than even his pre-mending form. He has the abilities of countless planeswalkers. All the planeswalkers, the sparks he harvested, he has their energy, but also their skills. One example, and this proves how powerful he was in this state, but also how evil this guy can be, is that he gave all children across the whole of the multiverse nightmares while they slept. Like, why? What was this for? Why would you do that? But the fact that he could alter reality in other planes from Ravnica is something even a pre-mending planeswalker would struggle to do. All those sparks equaled all the power. His whole goal, as stated in the Magic Arena app, was to reshape the whole multiverse in his image, and he finally had the power to do that. But he only had it for mere moments, because it was all taken away from him by Liliana, who he was using as a puppet. She turned the zombie gods against him, who were covered in magic-resistant armor, so when he finally fought them one-on-one, he took a few of them down, but basically he couldn't do anything because they were resistant to magic. He made a weapon even he couldn't defeat. They ended up harvesting all of the souls he stole plus his original spark, turning him back into an Elder Dragon and not a Planeswalker for the first time in 25,000 years. Now, he's fought countless battles with countless figures, but 3 stand out I think I should include in this video. One battle, though, with arguably one of the most intelligent beings in all of Magic, Niv-Mizzet the Firemind. Their battle was so intense, they were firing off thousands of spells a second, battling mentally, physically, magically, and spiritually all at once. As he was doing this, he was also moving his minions around collecting sparks and commanding his army. A notable feat in this battle, outside the sheer awesome power of it, is that he has a drastic healing factor, able to be physically harmed and instantly recover in a blink of an eye. He battled a pre-mending planeswalker that was referred to as the Demon Leviathan. The battle lasted a month of straight fighting. It destroyed continents, created a huge temporal rift in the multiverse, but in the end, Bolas won the fight. He consumed the giant demon planeswalker, gaining his power and leaving his talons as a monument to his own greatness. They formed the Talon Gates on Dominaria. But this shows that he can battle an equal foe for a lengthy period of time, and such a battle has devastating consequences on the surrounding and even reality. In the Legend cycle, Bolas was weakened due to some time rift shenanigans. He was the Emperor of Madara. He was eventually killed by his champion, Tetsuo Umezawa. This is where he was killed mind, body, and soul, as I referenced earlier, and he reformed in the Blind Eternities. He eventually reforms completely from nothing, and it's believed he has multiple contingency plans if he were to die again. Hence why Ugin didn't kill him at the end of the War of the Spark, he just trapped him. Let's go over some of Bolas's major weaknesses. He's incredibly arrogant, narcissistic, and selfish. This is shown in his plans, when he often underestimates his opponent, leading to his downfall. He has no loyalty to anyone, and only loyalty he gets is exclusively through manipulation and fear. His brother is always a thorn to his side and can rival him in power. He often builds the thing that defeats him, built a way to steal sparks that resists magic, and it stole his, and he couldn't do anything because he uses magic. A planeswalker can be contained to a plane via magical means, like the immortal sun. Old walkers are basically immortal and indestructible as long as they maintain their focus. So you get rid of their focus or for a split second or so, bang bada boom, you could destroy their physical form. Sparks, the thing that give planeswalkers their power, can be removed, destroyed, or deactivated. And if you paid attention to my comments in my last video, another weakness of old planeswalkers is 7 squirrels. Okay, let's move on to the God Emperor of Mankind. We will break him down into 3 versions: the Heresy Era Emperor, which was around the year 31k, the Corpse Emperor, which was around the year 40k, and the Dark King, the pinnacle of his possible power. He is often described as the ultimate Psyker, a being whose mental and spiritual power rivals gods, and one of the most unbelievable characters in all of fiction. Let's talk about the Emperor's origins, which are shrouded in mystery. He's approximately 40,000 years old. His origins and first name are unknown to us. It is said that in the early days of humanity, a group of shamans with the Psycher Abilities could reincarnate themselves. But thanks to the evil of the warp and demons, that ability was waning, so they were losing power and knowledge throughout the generations. They all came together in a conclave and decided to end themselves all at once and reincarnate into a single being. A year later, the Emperor was born to a farmer. The Emperor is a perpetual. In layman's terms, this means he's immortal. His soul actually lives inside the warp. However, he is able to still be injured, his physical body, but he is ageless. So if you somehow destroy his body, his soul will remain in the warp and eventually it'll come back. He is a master at war in all forms of technology. He lived through every age of man, mastering their technology, science, and military tactics. His skin is said to work with his armor, and he can compel technology to fix itself. Many see the Emperor as a 14-foot tall golden god, weighing around 400 pounds, but it's suggested this is just an illusion. He projects his image into your mind. Some who can see through it see him as a man in a purple cloak. Khan described his face as weather-beaten and unsmiling, the face of one who has ridden under every sun and counted every blade of grass. Before we delve into what he can do as a Psyker and how powerful the Biggie really is, we need to discuss briefly the Warp and the Chaos Gods. The warp contains the emotions and souls of the worlds it touches. It often plays a plot device due to its mystery and power, kind of does whatever the writer needs it to do at any given time. However, there are some concrete information tidbits that I can give to you that we do have on it. Firstly, the warp extends not only throughout the Warhammer universe, but it's also connected to infinite other universes. It isn't a physical place, it's more of a metaphysical place. Chaos gods exist in the warp, allegedly many, but there's 4 main ones that we are closely familiar with thanks to the lore: Khorne, Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. The Chaos gods are as impressive as the warp, and there seems to be a myth that these gods aren't that strong, cause they cannot conquer a single galaxy, the Milky Way, or a whole universe, but this is untrue to an absurd degree. Khorne has claimed billions upon billions of souls from several galaxies, their blood and skulls improving the interior design of his vacation home, I'm sure. Tzeentch is said to listen to every being's hopes and dreams in the universe, not just the Milky Way. So these Chaos Gods influence all the universe and are battling on so many fronts, not just with the Imperium of Mankind, but their battle and influence isn't just limited to one universe. Horus said that chaos has conquered countless universes before, quoted as saying, "This universe will burn as countless others have burned before it." There can be no victory against chaos. And they aren't just fighting the inhabitants of various universes only. They are also fighting each other. They call it the Great Game, a game to claim ultimate power by fighting one another. And they fight in various ways, the most common being demons, which are extensions of the Chaos Gods. And it's said often that demons have an infinite variety. Although I've heard debates for and against it, warp energy is akin to magic in most IPs, and for the purposes of this video, we will treat it similar to that. However, it's not the same as magic energy in Magic the Gathering because they come from different areas. The warp energy obviously comes from the warp, which is sourced by emotions of the people in that universe. Mana comes from the land and it's innate inside the land. A Psyker is a being who can tap into the energy of the warp and use it to alter reality in various ways. Although Psychers typically specialize in one form of Psycher ability, the Emperor is considered the greatest among them and can do all forms at the pinnacle of how they should be performed. So anything any Psyker in the Warhammer lore can do will be up for grabs for this video, and we will also be assuming that he can do it as good as them, if not way better. Physically, he's a powerhouse. His strength is greater than that of Sanguinius, whose strikes are equivalent to artillery strikes. The Spear of Telesto, the primary weapon of Sanguinius, gave the character Archeo the ability to move so fast that lasers froze suspended in the air. So the speed of the Emperor should be at least that fast, if not faster, making him well above light speed. Gate of Affinity is another Psyker ability that literally has the wielder punch a hole in the warp, creating a pathway over vast distances. Since it's in the warp, his soul exists beyond the normal time stream, separate from his physical form. He doesn't have the ability to turn time completely back, but he can slow or even stop it. In fact, many Psychers can use time manipulation as well. Premorphic Resonance lets you peer into the future to find a future where a shot or aim will 100% hit its target, preventing the enemy from being able to dodge it. They also use Veil of Time to sway the tide of battle in their favor. This is a kind of fate manipulation as well, used by Psychers, so it's open to the big E. Being the most powerful Psyker in humanity's history, the Emperor is easily capable of manipulating minds, from the most basic to the most complex, and dominating them to his will. He forced 100,000 legionnaires of the Wordbearers Legion to kneel before him against their wills. His abilities are theoretically superior to Cacodominus, who enslaved the minds of 1,300 solar systems. He has access to telekinesis as well. Malcador, the Emperor's most powerful Psyker in his service, has been shown to move a moon called Titan into the warp. A greater demon of Zeech moved a cluster of stars, and the Emperor should be far superior than that demon in the same task. He's adept in soul manipulation, creating the Primarch souls from the warp energy himself. He can also wound the soul in a variety of ways, like with Psychic Scream, that can tear souls from the body of those caught in a psychic wave of energy. One of the Emperor's most devastating abilities is known as the Holocaust. It can destroy the body of its victims completely, as well as their mind and soul. That phrase sounds bad enough, but he did this to an orc boss. Let me read the passage to you so you really visualize it. It's from the perspective of one of the Primarchs, Horus. Horus felt the buildup of colossal psychic energies and shielded his eyes as a furious light built within the Emperor. Power like nothing he had ever seen his father wield, or even suspected he possessed. All-consuming, all-powerful, it was the power to extinguish life in every sphere of its existence. Physical flesh turned to ash before it, and what ancient faiths had once called a soul was burned out of existence, never to cohere again. Nothing would ever remain of he who suffered such a fate. Their body and soul would pass from the finite energy of the universe to fade into the memory and have all that they were wiped from the canvas of existence. This was as complete a death as it was possible to suffer. The power blazed along the Emperor's sword, filling the green skin with killing light. It erupted in a bellowing golden explosion, and lightning blazed from the after image of its death, arcing from orc to orc as it sought out all those who were kin to the master of Goro. One comment I expect on this video is that the Emperor was almost defeated and choked out by an orc boss, so he's weak. This is the fight they are referencing. I don't think they've fully read or understood the passage. There's no coming back from this death. You're completely dead. Everyone aligned with you is dead. No coming back from it. In Warhammer, when a demon dies, they go back to the warp and will eventually return. Remember, they are extensions of the Chaos Gods, but the Emperor can nullify demons and kill them permanently. They won't be coming back. And he can nullify other Psychers, cutting off their energy source if they are lesser than him in power, and all are lesser than him in power. He himself cannot be nullified by other Psychers. The Emperor can seal away beings he either can't destroy, or destroying could be too devastating for mankind. He did that with the Void Dragon. It suggested that he could have destroyed the Void Dragon, but the repercussions for the universe would be catastrophic. The Emperor can take what's called a fiery form, where he becomes untouchable to conventional senses, and also can strike back at an opponent's soul, lighting it on fire. Fiery form improves your fire-based attacks as well, like Incinerate, which is a pinpointed focus of intense heat that can agitate the molecules and turn the insides of the victim into molten lava. Biomancy is a specialty of Psychers, where they have complete cellular control of their own bodies. Being able to heal themselves and make themselves nearly indestructible, create extra organs, even create wings and claws if they want to. Now, let's get into a few battles that the Emperor engaged in that we can briefly discuss. It has his typical strategies, his power levels, and some of his feats. The first, and one of the most referenced, was him versus the Shard of the Void Dragon. Details of the fight are sparse, but it was a quick one. The Emperor usually wins relatively quickly in all of his fights. A Shard of the Void Dragon is a piece of a god of the physical world known as the Catan. But don't think the Shard is weak, because it definitely is not. Such a Shard could power whole worlds and annihilate planets. He threw the Shard to Mars and sealed it away there, trapping it for later use. Yeah, he could just throw things to other planets. Many say he saw the future and that the Shard could power a human civilization on Mars, and of course it did. The second battle happens in the Webway, a portion of the warp. Now there's tens of thousands dying at the hands of the hordes of demons. One demon, though, stood out among them all, powerful enough to be its own chaos entity, unallied with the chaos gods. It was Draknian. Humanity's losing, but the Emperor finally shows up with an army of golden specters. It's the dead spirits of a space marine legion. Demons instantly start screaming and disintegrating at his very presence. Even Draknian fled from him, but he commanded him to show himself, and he did, taking the form of the first murderer of mankind. It's like a savage with fur and a spear. Now they fly at each other, and they do it so fast no one can really see it, each landing a blow. But the demon changed forms into a sword, and it was impaling the Emperor. Now, he drank the blood of the Emperor, but the Emperor's like, okay, whatever. Pulls the sword out, forces the demon to stay in that form, and then he takes it, throws it into the torso of one of his bodyguards, and orders him to run, and then the demon was stuck in that sword form ever since. The next battle is that with his son Horus. There's some key points in this battle. The first being, before the battle, the Emperor absorbed a bunch of warp energy he thought he'd need to win this fight, and he almost ascended to godhood when he did, but he stopped due to the increased power it could destroy all those around him, and he would have possibly taken the form of the Dark King, a god form of the Emperor as strong, if not stronger, than the Chaos Gods. It's a prophesized future he wanted to avoid. Now, the next thing you got to keep in mind about this battle is Horus was imbued with the power from all four Chaos Gods who actually attended the battle. They were just like sitting and watching, and they were just giggling it out because this is so entertaining for them. This is all just a game to them. They're so powerful. Now, Horus was way stronger than the Emperor at this point. The level that these guys were fighting at was insane. Lots of weird details in this fight, like they change dimensions to counter each other, they get around other defenses by changing dimensions in time, and they use probability altering. They're fighting physically, metaphysically, spiritually, mentally, all at once. The Emperor constantly would be near defeat, find some kind of energy source to revamp him, in either like through prayers, the Astronomicon, etc. Eventually, Horus lost the power of chaos, and the Emperor used this moment to strike. He even mentions in the text that this is the last moment, because if Horus regained the chaos powers, he would be unable to stop him at all. Let me read an excerpt from this fight because it's pretty intense. Mustering every iota of his concentration, he focused his psychic might into a bolt of pure force, a coherent laser, more destructive than an exploding sun. He hurled the bolt at Horus, a beam of power designed for the death of a god. The Emperor's psychic bolt struck the War Master. Horus screamed as destruction rained down on him. He twisted and withered in titanic pain. He strove frantically to counter the Emperor's death blow, but his struggles became more and more feeble as the lethal energies played over him. Driven by all the force of his rage and his pain and his hatred, the Emperor willed Horus's death. Through the torrent of the Emperor's psychic assault, Horus howled in pain and remorse. He painfully uttered his last words. "I have been a fool. I was so wrong. Everything is ruined. I have betrayed you, my father. I do not ask for forgiveness. End my torment. Kill me now. I am too weak to resist them. They call to me. Please end this." Horus was free, but the Emperor knew that himself was dying, and that the powers of chaos might once again possess the War Master, and that he would not be able to stop them a second time. It was too great a risk. Horus must die. As stated in the passage, the Emperor took heavy damage, so much damage that he couldn't fully recover afterwards. He was quickly transported to the Golden Throne to keep him alive. This is the era of the Corpse Emperor 40k. Trapped on the Golden Throne, you think that the Emperor would be highly weakened, and in some degree he is. He is actually far more powerful, arguably, than he was before, with more belief in the galaxy and a sacrifice of 1,000 Psychers a day. He has gained a lot of power, but what he can do with that power is more limited than he was in the past. Whatever he may have been before the Horus Heresy, the Emperor is now truly a god within the warp. He has become perhaps the strongest spiritual force in all the Milky Way. The following feats are that of him on the Golden Throne as the Corpse Emperor. The greatest feat of the Emperor by far is holding the forces of chaos at bay. The gods constantly probe to enter the material realm, and he prevents them with sheer willpower. As I expressed before, the Chaos Gods are far more powerful than just some mischievous entities in the warp. They have the power of souls, trillions upon trillions of souls from near infinite universes. Physically, he's unable to leave the throne, move, or speak. The Emperor also uses an insane amount of power to maintain and sustain the Astronomicon, which is a 70,000 light-year wide beacon. It helps humanity to move and navigate when traveling through warp space. He contains the Webway Gate with his mind and willpower, which prevents the opening of the Eldar Webway Gate on Terra, which is Earth, which would result in a never-ending horde of demons entering from the warp if it was open. His mere presence and psychic barrier prevents demons from fully invading the material universe in the Milky Way. Extremely selfless, faithful, incapable humans who are martyred in his name can be resurrected by his power into living saints, much like Celestine. The Emperor resurrects Guilliman, one of the Primarchs. He cures him of a metaphysical disease caused by Nurgle. Then, through him, he is able to battle Mortarion, another Primarch siding with Chaos Gods. He sends him back to his god Nurgle with his tail between his legs. Then, if that wasn't impressive enough, he burned a large section of territory claimed by Nurgle in the warp, one of his gardens. He can create warp storms, which are warp-based destructive storms that span light years in diameter. Worlds that get into their path are completely destroyed. Although he can't physically talk, he can communicate directly with powerful psychers, or guide the Adeptus Custodes through cryptic dreams. He can also create miracles via luck manipulation. Let's talk about the third and potentially most powerful form of the Emperor, the Dark King. It is a form he almost entered into prior to the Horus fight. It is prophesized and it's pretty theoretical, so keep that in mind. But from what I've read, it's almost an inevitability. He wouldn't be the chaos god of sunshine and rainbows, far from it. He'd be a force of merciless judgment, sublime fury, and cruel perfect rationality. When he almost ascended into this form, the few allies who didn't instantly vaporize stepped in and reminded him who he was. They pulled him back from the edge, back from becoming the Dark King, and he lets the power go, showing great restraint and power to do so. The ruinous powers in the Eldar, which are the elves of Warhammer, believe that he didn't stop the Dark King, that eventually the Emperor will become him, and it'll be equal to, if not greater than, the current Chaos Gods. Remember, time doesn't work the same in Chaos Warp to them. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And it's even said that his servants and his domain already exist within the Warp. Let's summarize some of his weaknesses, because even with his great power, he definitely has some that may play a role in this fight. The Emperor is extremely arrogant, thinking he's the only one that can guide humanity. He treats others like tools instead of humans, causing breakdown in leadership. He underestimates chaos often, leading to the Horus heresy. He always seems to have a single point of failure in all of his plans. The Webway project, for example. Later, the Golden Throne, and then the Astronomicon. Although super powerful, he can be damaged. He is heavily reliant on the warp to use his Psycher abilities. On the throne, he is immobile, can't communicate effectively, and requires life support sacrifices of 1,000 Psychers a day. And he is constantly focusing on keeping the warp gate shut, powering the Astronomicon, maintaining his psychic presence across the Imperium, and keeping chaos out of the Milky Way as best he can. And most importantly, his greatest weakness of all is he's just the worst father to ever exist. When deciding who the victor will be, it really comes down to which versions are fighting which, and the location they are fighting. For example, if I pick a location like Dominaria that doesn't really have access to the warp that we know of, the Emperor just instantly loses. Would he put up a fight? Maybe, but he'd have no Psyker power unless he can utilize mana in a more effective way than Bolas on the fly, which I don't think he would be able to. So, to eliminate the variables, the fights will take place in the canon Warhammer universe. I'm just going to have them pop up above Terra. Bolas planeswalks onto Terra and sees what happens. And each character will have no prep time, instant engagement, and be completely 100% bloodlusted. And it seems unfair to pick only one version of Bolas versus one version of the Emperor and just call it a day, since each version is different on the power scaling. To keep complete intellectual honesty and as unbiased as possible, what I did is form a hierarchy of versions in order of their power. Okay, let's get into the battle. Comment down below who you think is going to win with the information I've given you, and then tell me if you got it right. The real interesting battle, and the battle I think would be the most questionable and even, is the Premending Bolas versus a 31k Emperor. I wrote out a little fun situation I'd love to read to you about them battling. I don't have fancy animators to make it come to life like Death Battle, but it should detail how I think it might go, then I'll explain my reasoning. Nicol Bolas, the God Pharoah, the Forever Serpent, his golden scales glimmer in the setting sun of the plane of Amonkhet, and then he disappears, entering to all the all-consuming blind eternities. Each planeswalker sees the infinite scope of the blind eternities different. Some see it as a field of trees, some an archaic library. Bolas, he sees it as mana and power, pure and unadulterated. But it doesn't consume him. He is a planeswalker after all. He glides through it, worlds whirling past him. The mind of the Planeswalker is infinite in scope, its machinations incomprehensible to the mere mortal. It scans each world, understanding their nature. And then he sees a world, a grim, dark world of power, struggle, and war. Bolas enters, air is displaced, and he appears above the skies of Terra. He grins, contemplating a new world to rule. Invisible in a step outside the time stream, he is unnoticeable to all, save for one. Alarms blare, filling the polluted skies. Military forces mobilize. How annoying, Bolas says to himself, but how did they? Before his question could be finished, a golden light flies at incredible speeds towards him. A giant 14-foot tall golden god. No, not a god, a man. The pinnacle of all men, the Emperor. The ambush attacks are deflected by Bolas's continuous magical barriers. He roars in response to this obscenity. How dare a man strike at a dragon? Is this your doing? The Golden Emperor asks, peering past the dragon's form to something unseen. The Planeswalker responds with a series of spells. Death magic engulfs the Emperor, black miasma spews out of Bolas's raised claw. The Emperor's Psycher protections, armor, and natural resistance make it all moot. Then military forces begin to engage Bolas, showering him in a hail of advanced weaponry fire. You dare, Bolas snapped. An Elder Dragon can see the world as it is, its very nature. He sees a gate to near infinite power right before him. With a wave of his claw, the Elder Webway Gate on Terra opens up against the will of the Emperor. The forces of chaos start to bleed from the wound of reality onto Terra. The forces of man, already mustered, begin to engage, to stop the bleeding into their world, but also for their Emperor. Demonic hordes, how quaint. But that energy, let me see here. The Planeswalker's claw waved and the warp energy started to flow towards him. Before it could reach, it stopped. The Emperor nullified his use of warp energy. The warp fuels all magic here, but Bolas uses a different source. The Emperor couldn't rid him of his energy imbued right onto his spark, but the warp was the Emperor's alone to use. They aren't behind this, then? I see. His eyes glowed, believing that the Chaos God had sent this demon. But he knows now. Emperor began to close the gate with his vast mind and willpower. But then, Bolas sent a volley of spells at him in the moment of distraction, causing him to fly backwards. Man will have to fight the chaos, the Emperor thought. His faith was in them. It was his job to get rid of this dragon. Oh no, little one. I'll require your full attention, Bolas grinned. With blinding speed, the Emperor charged Bolas from the flank, his flaming sword in hand. It shattered on the dragon's golden scales into pieces as it touched him. Bolas laughed and whipped his tail at the Emperor, who phases out of the dimension to dodge it. I can see now. Your power is great, but mine is infinite. Now they truly begin the fight. No longer probing the powers, knowing the stakes. Each blow, counter, and reality manipulation attempt would be devastating to any other being on this world. But the defenses, experience, and power of both are too great. Physical attacks mix with hundreds of spells a second, then time stops. Snarling demon faces paused, bullets frozen in midair. Bolas as still as a statue. The Emperor moves to cast the final blow. Then Bolas disappears from sight of the Emperor, reappearing above with another volley of reality warping spells. Emperor moves swiftly, continuing the epic confrontation. Enough! I am an Elder Dragon, a Planeswalker. You are beneath me. You suffer from the same affliction as them all. You care about these little insects, this world. If only you knew how small it was to someone like me. Let me show you. Bolas's eyes glowed an ominous red. The earth began to shake. Bolas will try to destroy this planet. What's one planet when he could have the whole universe after all? Cracks began to form in the earth's crust as humans died from Bolas's death magic. Hailfire flooded the skies, disintegrating all that it touched into ash. The prayers of the people, the cries and their suffering. To the Emperor, he needed to end this now, or all of humanity will be doomed. Absolutely not. The Emperor knew, perceived this possible outcome of this spell. The destruction of Terra would devastate humanity's fight in this galaxy. Trillions upon trillions depended on him. He wouldn't allow it. Warp energy flooded the Emperor. His powers, influence on the reality of this world grew greater than ever before. He began to ascend into something greater than himself. But before that, a crucial moment before the moment he became a god, one final Psyker attack to wipe this dragon, this enemy of mankind, away from his world. Warp energy erupted from the Emperor like a newborn star. Not fire, not lightning, but annihilation of the being itself. Bolas roared as the Psycher energy tore through his minds. One by one, each submind collapsed like a burning library. His body did the same, coming apart molecule by molecule. For the first time in 25,000 years, Nicol Bolas felt true defeat. The earth stopped shaking, and Bolas' body disappeared from reality, and so did his soul and mind. But Bolas found himself once again drifting in the blind eternities. A spectral form, a spirit. He roared in absolute anger, in defeat. He will return with a vengeance, but that'll take time. What is time to a being like him? Okay, let's break down this battle. There's a few deciding factors when I was thinking about this, and I have thought long and hard about this. First, let's address the Luxodon in the room. Can Bolas just pop into the Warhammer universe, flick his wrist, and destroy the whole plane? Old Planeswalkers do have the potential to destroy whole planes, but the scale of this feat is vague in the lore. Bolas himself said that he has done this to many planes. It's my belief old walkers need to have certain conditions in place to pull this stunt off. They have never been shown to instantly, without any prep, destroy planes. Urza and 8 other planeswalkers, old walkers, struggled to destroy a small artificial plane called Phyrexia, mainly because of Yawgmoth. So, a being or a source of energy can strengthen a plane, make it harder to destroy. You have to destroy those things first, and then the plane. Bolas has stated he's killed world souls before, which are manifestations that protect planes, so he can theoretically do it given time. But he didn't have the time to do it in an instant fight like this. So, for all that think the Premending Bolas would just pop into this universe and snap his fingers to win, I'm so sorry to disappoint. I just don't think that would be the outcome in this fight. Okay, so what about physical attacks? I don't think that play a huge role in this fight. Both are physical powerhouses, but healing, cellular control of their complete bodies, and magical defenses almost make it moot. Emperor should have far higher speed, at least in the feats we've seen, making it probably hard for Bolas to even touch him, but again, I don't think it'll be a huge factor. Okay, what about time manipulation? Bolas and the Emperor both have mastery of time manipulation, so as you saw, the Emperor tried to use it on Bolas, but he was like, nah, that won't work on me. One question I asked myself when forming this fight: can magic and warp psyker energy counter each other, defend against each other, all that? And my answer is yes, because they're both essentially forms of magic, just different energy sources. So they still warp reality, can essentially do anything, but they're different sources. So they can counter each other. The magical defenses can defend against the other, or psychic defenses can defend against the other. I think, however, the Emperor probably could prevent Bolas from accessing warp energy through nullification. But being a walker, it doesn't really matter because their sparks have infinite energy for them to use. What about mind manipulation? Again, I think they're on equal footing. As you saw as I read all their powers throughout this video, you're probably like, wait, they both do this, they both do this, they both can do this. So it's almost impossible to differentiate their power levels because they rarely fight someone on their equal footing. Bolas has never been shown to be able to be manipulated mentally, and the Emperor wards off the Chaos Gods constantly. You don't think those Chaos Gods are trying to get into that guy's mind? You crazy. Both have vast, multi-dimensional minds and can defend effectively against each other. Planeswalkers can summon things from out the multiverse. Bolas can summon elementals, zombies, demons, you name it, he can probably do it. But I think whatever the Emperor had in terms of allies, because Terra is essentially the homeworld of humans in this world, and it's like the epicenter of them, hence him opening the webway gate to engage the forces, I think for plot reasons that was effective, but also it is something Bolas could do because he has the gift of names and old walkers can see energy sources, so he could totally see that the webway gate is there, probably that the Emperor's keeping it shut or doesn't want it open, and bang bada boom, he opens it. What I think this fight really comes down to, the one ability I think matters the most, is soul manipulation. Both are adept in it, as all that's a trend here. Both have souls technically outside of their own body, with planeswalkers being essentially living beings of energy that take physical form, and the Emperor being a perpetual, so his soul stays in the warp. It would take an overwhelming force to impact the either soul, and that is what happened when he was absorbing a bunch of warp energy. The Emperor always has that trump card. I believe he would use the Night King if there was no hope for humanity. If the planet was completely destroyed, I believe humanity would be lost in Warhammer. The Emperor can see the future often, so he could probably see this as an outcome. And he'd have no Golden Throne, no Astronomica, nothing keeping humans competitive in the Warhammer universe. And this is a brutal universe to be isolated like that, and they'd be sitting ducks. The sudden excess of power could momentarily catch Bolas off guard, and it is a second that the Emperor needs to destroy his soul. Now, I had to eliminate as many variables as I can, but Bolas may have lost this fight, but the war would be in his favor. Because an old walker, he's basically immune to damage in the long run. He'll just reform, shuffle up, and play again. In a single moment, the Emperor wins a single battle, but after that, I think the Emperor's odds drastically increase, especially with how petty Bolas is. There's so many enemies he's come back and just utterly destroyed for even daring to challenge him. And in the end, I'd give it to the Emperor, probably 60% favorability over a Premending Bolas with no prep time on Terra. In a straight up fight, as we mentioned, he planeswalks to Terra, they're bloodlusted and engaged. I think Premending Bolas could take out the Corpse Emperor in combat. That is because although his level of power is far greater than his previous 31k version, it is also limited in scope. He could use proxies to fight with a portion of his powers like he did with Guilliman. However, I think Bolas could easily counter and overcome them with his own strengths or his own army. And you gotta remember, the Corpse Emperor uses a lot of his powers to do various large-scale things. Project himself across the Imperium, keep the Chaos Gods at bay in the Milky Way, power the Astronomicon, while Premending Bolas has a singular focus, and, of course, the Corpse Emperor has one huge weakness. The throne, the Golden Throne, if that is destroyed, who knows what'll happen. He will definitely eventually die, and whether he dies in ascends to godhood or not is up to speculation. As for a 31k Emperor versus a Post-Mending Bolas, now this would be a really cool battle to see, but the Emperor in this form is more capable in battle. Although not equal to the Corpse Emperor in pure power, he is far more capable, and he doesn't need to fight via proxies. Now, they both have millennia of experience at their belt, but the Post-Mending Bolas does not have infinite mana at his disposal, so he would need to get that from the land. So I don't think him destroying the planet to really mess with Emperor would be the way to go, because he needs that mana. The Emperor has tons of mana. In fact, he can absorb more mana if he needs it. There's also not a single point of failure like the Golden Throne with the Corpse Emperor, so Bolas couldn't kind of exploit that option. Now, I don't think the Post-Mending Bolas is packing the same level of power as the 4 Chaos Gods combined, which is what took out the 31k Emperor. Again, soul manipulation will be the go-to move for this. Post-Mending Bolas is not immortal, and I think there is a real shot that the 31k Emperor could end his life, but Bolas might have a plan for that, we don't know. Okay, so here's the final verdict. Dark King at the top, then War the Spark Bolas, then 31k Emperor, then Premending Bolas, then Corpse Emperor, then Postmending Bolas, and then last place, the Elder Dragon Bolas. To celebrate reaching the milestone of 200 subs, I want to do a giveaway, and I'm going to theme it around this video. So I'll be giving away a Bolas or an Emperor-based foil proxy to multiple people. If you don't know, I make them for fun, for friends and stuff. They look cool. Here's some art for them. Here's a video on the screen. I could put any art that you want on them. It could do any card. Perhaps you want a demonic tutor with the Chaos Gods leaning over Horus. Whatever you want, we'll work it out together. All you have to do is comment down below a few things. One, you can comment down below which one of these guys you thought would win the battle and did your mind change. Or you can comment down below a versus battle you'd like to see. Maybe you'd like to see Soren versus Darth Vader, or Slivers versus Xenomorphs, or Emrakul versus 15 squirrels. Who would win? The possibilities are endless. You also need to be subbed to my channel. I'll do this more if there is interest in it. I do ask if you are international, that's totally cool. You can enter. We might need to work out a shipping situation. We can talk about it. Don't you worry. You're included in this. No one gets left out. I'll pick the winners 1 month after this video's release. I hope you enjoy it. Also, if you play EDH, I do have a channel with unique EDH builds, and I do mean unique. It's my thing. Check it out. It's Labman EDH deck building. The day after I post this video, I will have a Bolas versus Warhammer EDH decks to tag along with this one. Here's the thumbnail. A few of the people that helped me with this video did request some decks that I'm adding to that list. It'll be 1 Bolas deck versus 9 Warhammer decks. Thank you so much for watching until the end of the video. I am Rusty, your guide and referee for the multiverse. Shout out to my paid patrons. I appreciate your support. If you want additional lore or EDH content, check out my Patreon. And until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you. Thank you so much for watching until the end.